Article 314.27 of the National Electrical Code addresses the installation of outlet, device, pole and junction boxes, conduit bodies, and fittings. It specifically prohibits installing these components in concealed locations. The core principle is that electrical boxes must be accessible for inspection, maintenance, and future modifications. Hiding them behind finished surfaces like walls or ceilings without provisions for access creates a potential safety hazard and violates code. Consider a typical residential or commercial building. Walls and ceilings often have hollow spaces. Article 314.27 explicitly states that junction boxes shall not be installed in these hollow spaces. This requirement ensures that electricians or inspectors can readily access the boxes without having to demolish parts of the building structure. The main reason for this rule is safety. Electrical connections within junction boxes can sometimes loosen or corrode over time. An accessible junction box allows for easy inspection and tightening of connections, preventing potential hazards like arcing or overheating, which could lead to fires. Accessibility also simplifies troubleshooting and repairs. If there's an electrical problem in a circuit, an electrician can quickly locate and access the junction box to diagnose the issue and make necessary repairs. Without accessibility, the electrician would have to spend time and effort locating the box, potentially damaging the finished surfaces in the process. Furthermore, future modifications or additions to the electrical system become much easier with accessible junction boxes. New circuits can be easily tapped into existing boxes, and wiring can be rerouted as needed. Concealed boxes, on the other hand, make these modifications difficult and costly. Now let's delve into the exception to this rule. The NEC recognizes that there are situations where it may be necessary or desirable to install a junction box behind a finished surface. In these cases, an exception is provided, but it comes with a critical condition. The exception states that a junction box can be installed behind a finished wall or ceiling if it is made accessible after the finish is installed. This accessibility must be achieved through a trapdoor or a removable panel. In other words, there must be a way to access the junction box without having to cut into or remove the finished surface. The trapdoor or removable panel must be of sufficient size to allow easy access to the box and its wiring. The panel should be securely fastened, but also easily removable. This exception balances the need for accessibility with the desire for aesthetic appeal. It allows for concealed installations in situations where it's practical and safe to do so. It's important to note that the exception is not a blanket waiver of the accessibility requirement. It only applies if the junction box is truly accessible after the finished surface is installed. For instance, simply knowing the location of the box is not enough. There must be a physical means of accessing it, such as a trapdoor or removable panel. The NEC also specifies that the access point must be readily accessible. This means that it shouldn't be hidden behind furniture, appliances, or other obstructions. The access point should be easily located and opened without the need for special tools or equipment. The complete exception, as detailed in NEC Article 314.27a, provides further clarification on the requirements for accessibility. It emphasizes the importance of maintaining clear access to the junction box for inspection, maintenance, and future modifications. Let's consider some practical examples of how this rule and its exception apply in real-world situations. Imagine a homeowner wants to install recessed lighting in their living room ceiling. The wiring for the lights will need to be connected within junction boxes. If the junction boxes are simply placed in the ceiling cavity and covered with drywall, this would violate Article 314.27. However, if the homeowner installs access panels in the ceiling, allowing access to each junction box, the installation would comply with the exception. Another example involves running electrical wiring within a wall to power a new outlet. The junction box connecting the wiring should not be concealed behind the drywall without an access panel. Instead, the electrician should either relocate the junction box to an accessible location or install an access panel in the wall. Now, let's discuss the consequences of violating Article 314.27. Installing junction boxes in concealed locations without proper access can lead to several problems. Firstly, it creates a safety hazard. As mentioned earlier, loose or corroded connections can cause arcing or overheating, potentially leading to fires. Without access to the junction box, these problems may go unnoticed until it's too late. Secondly, it makes troubleshooting and repairs more difficult and costly. An electrician will have to spend time and effort locating the box, potentially damaging the finished surfaces in the process. This can significantly increase the cost of repairs. Thirdly, it can create problems during home inspections. When a home is sold, it typically undergoes a thorough inspection. If the inspector finds concealed junction boxes, it can raise red flags and potentially delay or even jeopardize the sale. Finally, it's a violation of the NEC, which is a legally enforceable code. If an electrical inspector discovers a violation, they can issue a notice of violation, requiring the homeowner to correct the problem. This can involve relocating the junction boxes or installing access panels, which can be costly and time-consuming. So, what should you do if you discover that you have concealed junction boxes in your home? Firstly, don't panic. Assess the situation and determine whether the boxes are truly inaccessible. If they are located behind finished surfaces without any means of access, then you have a violation of Article 314.27. Secondly, contact a licensed electrician. They can inspect the installation and advise you on the best course of action. The electrician may recommend relocating the junction boxes to accessible locations or installing access panels. Thirdly, follow the electrician's recommendations and have the work done properly. This will ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant with the NEC. In summary, Article 314.27 of the National Electrical Code prohibits installing junction boxes in concealed locations without proper access. The exception to this rule allows for concealed installations if the junction box is made accessible through a trapdoor or a removable panel. Violating this code can create safety hazards, make troubleshooting and repairs more difficult, and lead to problems during home inspections. If you discover that you have concealed junction boxes in your home, contact a licensed electrician to assess the situation and recommend corrective action. Remember, electrical safety is paramount. Always follow the NEC and consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant. Maintaining accessible junction boxes ensures the safety, maintainability, and adaptability of electrical systems in both residential and commercial settings. Understanding and adhering to Article 314.27 of the National Electrical Code is essential for all electrical installations. Now let's discuss some additional considerations related to junction box accessibility. Firstly, the size of the access panel is important. The access panel should be large enough to allow easy access to the junction box and its wiring. A small, cramped access panel can make it difficult to work on the electrical connections and can increase the risk of accidental damage to the wiring. Secondly, the location of the access panel should be carefully considered. The access panel should be located in a place where it is easily visible and accessible. It shouldn't be hidden behind furniture, appliances, or other obstructions. The access panel should also be located in a place where it is easy to work on the electrical connections. Thirdly, the type of access panel should be appropriate for the location. Access panels are available in a variety of materials, including metal, plastic, and drywall. The type of access panel you choose should be durable, weather-resistant, and aesthetically pleasing. Fourthly, the access panel should be securely fastened. The access panel should be securely fastened to the wall or ceiling to prevent it from falling off or being accidentally opened. However, the access panel should also be easy to remove for inspection and maintenance. Fifthly, the wiring within the junction box should be properly organized and labeled. This will make it easier to troubleshoot and repair electrical problems in the future. The wiring should be neatly arranged and secured with wire ties or other fasteners. Each wire should be labeled with its corresponding circuit number or function. Sixthly, the junction box should be properly grounded. Grounding is an essential safety measure that protects against electrical shock. The junction box should be grounded to a nearby grounding electrode. such as a metal water pipe or a ground rod. Seventhly, the junction box should be protected from physical damage. The junction box should be located in a place where it is not likely to be damaged by impact or other physical forces. If the junction box is located in a high-traffic area, it should be protected by a metal conduit or other protective covering. Eighthly, the junction box should be protected from moisture. Moisture can damage electrical connections and cause corrosion. The junction box should be located in a dry place and protected from water leaks. If the junction box is located in a damp or wet environment, it should be enclosed in a waterproof enclosure. Ninthly, the junction box should be properly sized for the number of conductors it contains. The NEC specifies the minimum size requirements for junction boxes based on the number and size of the conductors. Using a junction box that is too small can create overcrowding and increase the risk of electrical problems. Tenthly, the junction box should be installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. The manufacturer's instructions provide detailed information on how to properly install the junction box, including the proper wiring connections and mounting techniques. Following the manufacturer's instructions will ensure that the junction box is installed safely and correctly. By following these additional considerations, you can ensure that your junction boxes are accessible, safe, and compliant with the NEC. Remember, electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, contact a licensed electrician to perform the work.